What is something illegal you have done and got away without getting caught? I brought 2 or 3 Cuban cigars back to the US from Montreal once. When we cleared the border, I turned to my parents and used my favorite line from Futurama. Guess what your accessories to? I stole my own car from the tow impound lot. Best part was getting the certified letter months later that they were going to auction it if I didn't come and pay for it. My friends and I didn't pay for our dinner at Steak and Shake this past weekend. I stood waiting at the register trying to pay for 20 minutes, but no one came to take my money. It was 12:30 a.m. before we left. Stole a Blue Angels flag from the hangar they were parked in. When I was in the Navy, the Blue Angels visited the airbase I was stationed at. They proceeded to kick all of our planes out of our hangar, and I had to fix our birds out in the rain. In a fit of contempt, on the last day they were there, I went into the mess and stole the flag hanging from the overhead beams. I still have the flag and wear it like a cape from time to time. I once kept a dead otter in my freezer after finding it on the side of the road. In the UK, this can get a hefty fine and prison time without a license. Once I found out, I released the dead otter into the wild. It was a bit like Free Willy but with less movement. I'm just here looking for the comments that says murder. I accidentally shoplifted some pudding cups once. I was at Target and was buying a couple of large bags of dog food which were in the basket part of the cart and several smaller items that were in the top part of the cart. I had tossed the pudding cups into the basket part before I put the dog food bags in and forgot they were there when I put all the smaller items on the belt to be rung up. They were hidden from view when the dog food bags were scanned. I saw them when I was putting the dog food bags into the trunk. If the lines weren't so long, I would have gone back to pay for them. But 20+ minutes for a 99-cent item, I can live with that. If it were a more expensive item, I would have returned to pay for it. I trespassed a condo car park to see an expensive car. I pretended I lived there. I once overslept for an oral English exam this year, so I forged the letter I received with the date and moved it to following week. Showed it to my English teacher and she said it was probably a mistake. But I had to show it to the school dean as well to get approval for a reschedule. I showed the forged letter to him and he instantly found a mistake I made in the letter and just casually said that the letter looked badly copied. I was sweating bullets at that point, because forging a letter for an exam is a pretty harsh offense and could have gotten me suspended. But he just shrugged it off and gave me permission for a reschedule. I guess since I wasn't a troublemaker, he just gave me a pass. The dean was one of the cooler teachers at school though. He loved SpongeBob, and if he gave you detention work, you had to make a SpongeBob figure with a sponge and such. Worked at a car dealership. Broke many finance and insurance fraud laws on a daily basis for years. Most finance managers do and may not even be aware of it. I stole a piece of obsidian from biology class. At the next lesson, biology teacher came to our classroom and forced us to admit who stolen obsidian. But I didn't. I went to see Joe Biden speak during a campaign rally for the general election in 2008. It was at an apple orchard and the people who owned it had a basket of apples for Joe Biden and his staff by the stage. As soon as he left, I, along with half of the front row, got up and stole some of Joe's apples. They were among the best I've ever had. Sorry, Mr. Vice President, but if I had the chance, I'd steal your apples all over again. Stole some candy when I was 6 years old at the corner store in 1967. the summer of love for candy. I hid it behind a sock ball in my hand. I even showed the sock ball to the owner and said, "Do you like my sock ball?" I still feel remorse. He was a nice gentleman. I visited a abandoned building. Someone called the police and 30 minutes later we saw firefighters walking into the huge building just to search us. Luckily we saw it when we were already out. I might have a few pens from work in my drawer at home. This is not an admission of wrongdoing, nor can I attest to how they got there, if they're even there. Flown with weed in my checked luggage. I found out that this specific guy stole my phone from checking previous text on my account and calling numbers they were in contact with. He wouldn't admit he stole it. So I broke into his house via balcony, stole his laptop, and left a singed note to meet me and return my phone to get his laptop back. It totally worked and everyone got their stuff back. Probably climbing a signal tower in Egypt. I realized afterwards that it was on military land, then proceeded to climb it another couple of times. Oh, to be young and carefree. I went into CVS for 3 things: deodorant, the specific pencils I like to use, and a notebook. I grabbed the deodorant, perused the office supply aisle and saw they didn't have the pencils I wanted. So I decided it wasn't worth it to get the notebook either. Feeling like my trip was a failure, I left, walked out of CVS with the deodorant in my hand. No alarm went off. No employee stopped me. About 3 steps outside of the door, I realized I just stole. However, unintentionally. So I walked back in, bought the deodorant and 3 other items out of guilt. I was like 6 years old in a grocery store with my monsieur. She tells me to hold on to the gallon of apple juice because there was no more room in the cart for it. And I fucking loved apple juice. So being an absolute compliant little shit, I held onto the juice as she went through the checkout line. Kept holding it as we left to the car, on the way home, and all the way to the fridge to hand it to her to put it in the right spot. Only then did she realize that we never paid for it. I said, "But you told me to hold on to it." She just looks at me dumbfounded. Then, deadpan, tells me not to mention it to anyone else, that it was an accident, and that we are keeping it. In summary, stole apple juice, didn't get in trouble, and got to drink the entire gallon of that sweet-ass nectar of the gods by myself. Broke into a church, made a mess, went into the kitchen, made myself a sandwich, snacks, grabbed a soda, went on my merry way back home. Woke up the next day. Sober me felt guilty. Went back to apologize and pay for any damage. Ended up with a felony. GF's car got a flat tire and the company I worked for had a tire changer and wheel balancer and I knew the guys who operated it. We just needed a tire. So we go to Walmart, but the tire shop was closing early because they were slow and would not sell me a tire. I was pretty pissed and seen tires with cardboard cutouts in them on top of the shelves in the automotive department. I grabbed the one we needed and knocked out the cardboard and just walked out with it. Told the door greeter it was much cheaper here than anywhere else. When Xbox 360s used to get the red ring of death, I started up my own little side business. I used to buy new ones at Walmart with cash, open it, and take a small razor and swap the barcode from the new 360 to the broken 360. Then I would take the broken 360 with the new barcode and put it in the box and return it to Walmart saying it was a gift, but I already had one. All they used to do was scan the barcode to see if it was the same. Boom. New 360. and I would charge people $100 and get them the brand new 360 within 48 hours. I think that the statute of limitations is over on this one. It happened in the year 2000, almost 20 years ago. And so I can likely talk freely about it without getting in trouble. When I was at a local private school and had homework, I would often forge my mom's initials so as to not having to actually do it. I stole one of the rulers of one of my teachers when I was 13. I know, I'm a badass. Bought some fancy apples but put them both through as Macintosh at the self-checkout. Saved myself 70 cents but didn't like the apples. Went back to regular Macintosh apples. Karma is swift. I was 17 with my license. She was 16 with her permit. I let her drive my old stick-shift Jeep and she didn't know the difference between the brake and clutch and sent us into a guardrail at 40 miles per hour. Jeep was totaled and I was not about to have my license revoked until I turned 18. So I pushed the driver's seat back and the passenger forward. When the cops asked who was driving, I took responsibility. We got $13,000 for the Jeep and I paid my parents. My uncle gave me the Jeep and got a new car. Plus, I never got my license taken away. I'm not having my freedom revoked. I borrowed a piano from my music school and I never gave it back.
Thanks for watching and please like and subscribe to support the channel.